that people are doing?
Well, you see, if someone's an athlete, a runner, and they have someone running with them and they've got something around their wrist so that they can sense that, so they know that they're going, in the direction that they need to go, that's fantastic. With the other sports, it's quite amazing when you start thinking about it, how many sports there are that are adapted for those people with a physical disability. And that could be just, and I'm not saying it lightly, just their sight is not good. Doesn't mean to say that they have to stop, because their other four senses will hone in and become a lot stronger because they don't have that sight. Or their hearing, their visuals will become a lot more heightened. Or if they're, they can't move well, other things, other parts of their body, if their upper body can move, their lower body can't. There's an adaptation for all of it, isn't there, in some way, shape or form, that they can play a sport or do whatever they need to. And I mean, you mentioned rock climbing. Okay, well, let's talk about rock climbing and how that's adapted. No, I'm not going to use that word. Is it for people who sight impaired? Is it for people who have certain types of physical disabilities? Who's it for? And I don't want to discriminate against anyone, so please tell me.
Yeah, it's for everyone. So basically what happens is that the able-bodied rock climbers set up equipment where they're very carefully setting up all the equipment to entirely be able to support the participant with disabilities. Or in this field, I was taught through university, another way to go about it is to call some of these athletes diverse ability athletes. So what happens is that equipment saves the day, and then double, triple. So just like in the water skiing, like when I water ski, you have to look at what if there's an equipment failure, and then what's your fail safe to make sure this human being is protected. The rock climbers do the same thing. So you set it up that their body is, like I used to be an EMT. So like emergency teams, if somebody's unconscious, you can extricate, a person and get them from point A to point B any which way you need to get them off to the hospital. So that's the way I would enter into these sports. I would tell people, don't worry about me, helping you out. It's like, if you need to go to the hospital and have the attention of a doctor, I can get you safely there. Not that that's what's going to happen here, but I'm just like, with fire departments and whatever, I know how to move people from any elevation, any situation, a confined space. You tell me like what hazardous thing a person got themselves into, and we're the rescue team, and we can get that done. So it's the same type of thing with rock climbing. These rock climbers, through when they go out in teams and groups, they're protecting each other. You never know if somebody missteps and then all of a sudden they're dangling out there away from the wall that they were climbing, and and then how to get them back. Yeah, and then to get them back into where they need to be, along that rock wall. So it's just science and a sport, and practice, 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 and getting to know the equipment and limitations, and how you could go the wrong way to make it more hazardous. So let's get it back over to where it's safe. Yeah, it's all part of the training, like any sport.
And there is a risk in basically every sport that you do. It doesn't matter what it is, really. There's always a risk in cycling and running, walking, well, driving. There's risk in that. And they even have cars that people who can't move all their limbs can still drive a car if their lower body doesn't work. You've got their upper body controls in the car so that they can still drive and have that independence. And that independence is a really important part of their life, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, and that's with everything, whether it's, you know, like I say about face spaces. In my journey, face spaces is where I start, and face space could be going out into nature. Somebody might appreciate being able to go out into the green spaces and just getting away from all the chaos of a city or something. You never know what that faith journey needs, for whether it's meditation or yoga or whatever it is. But to get into that, because there is data to show that a lot of people around the world are not going into faith spaces, only because the people who are doing that faith activity don't understand some of the things like we're talking about in these conversations. So again, it all starts with faith spaces and the service thing, to say it's not about building a future where we continue this pity party, that it's like 2 billion people in the world are just asking for the other 6 billion people to serve them all day long every day. No, that everybody, all of us, 8 billion of us, we all want to be contributing members of society and to serve each other with our abilities. But sometimes the stigmas get in the way.
It's so true, so true. We're coming up for a break and we'll be back in a moment.
You've heard about self-equality meets. What are these
pity parties? Normal human beings go into pity parties. I reckon they're worse than anyone with a disability. They'll go into a pity party and feel sorry for themselves. Oh, the world's not working for me, or this isn't happening, or blah. Whereas people with disabilities would not do that. They would look
Right.
at whatever it is and look, you're just opening up a whole different perspective of a world for me and the listeners, hopefully, to educate them to understand that we all have a heart, we all have a brain, we all have feelings. So please respect that, regardless. Doesn't matter the colour of our skin, doesn't matter where we live, doesn't matter what we look like, we all have feelings. We all can get emotional. We can all be a sob story if we want to be. But, it's all about, just saying here on the ad, building a positive place for connections and people, create belonging in your community. This is what it's saying on an ad. But it's creating communities where everyone is welcome and they don't feel like they're being judged, or they don't feel the fear of going into a space and feeling uncomfortable. They can go there and do whatever they want to do. As long as nobody's hurting anyone else, what's the problem? Don't see any, do you? We're coming back on now. And it is 3:21, but it's 12:21 a.m. where Kurt is. So he's starting his early morning, very early morning, which is absolutely fabulous to be able to talk to people from all over the world. It's brilliant. The conversation that we're having, Kurt and I, it's all about disabilities and inclusion, including people with disabilities in every part of life, because they can do things. They may not be able to do it as well as somebody else, but there's equipment being developed. There are people out there that are, creating and helping and supporting, so someone with a physical disability, doesn't matter what it is, can be included in all sports, all life, anything. Is that right, Kurt?
That is correct. And with all this talk about equipment, I use a phrase to go by, which is technology is applied use of tools. So the thing I look at is all this equipment we talk about, they're tools to do what we want to do functionally and so forth, and it's empowering equipment and tools, but how we apply it, the application is where the magic happens. So whether we're using tools or not, that is the human opportunity here, is to say, what mindset are we going in here? How are we making decisions? Like, if we look at our government entities, let's ask ourselves, how many Australians with disabilities get to make decisions for the country or for the different areas of Australia? This is the type of mindset I'm taking around the world, Faye.
Good question. And that would be interesting to do some research to actually find out how many people with a disability make decisions for our country. There are a lot of people out there making decisions for our country, but they're not doing a very good job of it at all. So maybe a few other people could step in and do a better job. I'm just saying, it's my opinion. and I think there'd be a lot of people that agree with me too. It's interesting, isn't it, when you put it like that, how many people with a disability are able to make decisions, big decisions, for our country and for the betterment of everyone, not just a select few, but for everyone. So the inclusion is everyone, not just a few.
Yeah, so the idea is the voids that exist there are like the tip of the iceberg element. So in this conversation, we kind of had a spattery of references that I framed, because that's the way I looked at it. It's a synergy. Like, if we're in marketing, or we have an operation plan, or we're running a business, or running a community program, if you're doing anything that involves any sort of set of people, when running a sports team or whatever it is, there's always an array of things that you have to address. Running a radio show, it's like the different hats you kind of wear when you're doing what we're doing right now. There's always these things, and the idea is, where do we allow the opportunity for someone with a disability to come in and to teach us how this thing, like, how many people with disabilities get to run a radio show? I mean, that's the thing. Everything is for everybody. So every time we do something, when we're in the marketplace and we're in the checkout, how many people with disability get to be that person at the register? How many people, look at everything you do in your waking hours and when you're asleep, like how this happens. It's important, and when I say sleep, I brought up the point about who you sleep with. The thing that I was taught is, because of government programs and, serving a person, a lot of times it's limited to that person. And then we're setting things up that they're not with another. So if you look at something as simple as a mattress, a double bed mattress, a king size bed, a queen size bed, and whatever, in facilities that, if they're designed for someone with a disability, it tends to be the designers of it, make it a single bed. It's just amazing when you look at the culture, the custom, and the genetic memory, and to look at the decisions that people that don't have a disability make over the lives of people who have a disability. And that it's not people with disabilities who are limited, it's people that don't have a disability who are limited. And again, I come from a life journey where for 40 years, I would say that you're not meeting, where a friend of mine told me that it sounds like you had a Kurt Roscoff 1.0. So it sounds like Faye is interviewing Kurt Roscoff 2.0. It's so true. A transformation happened because I made myself available to the disability community, and they gave me a workover. I mean, it was just amazing what I learned in 10 years, because I just got an attitude, and I'm like, I'm going to do this water ski thing, and I got to learn how to do it. And they empowered me to do it in a way that in the first 4 decades of my life, people that don't have a disability never taught me a lot of these things. I had to go to independent living centers, disability service centers, and serving as vice chair of the Wisconsin Council on Physical Disabilities, running an adaptive ski program, creating ability ministry And doing all of these things is what it took for me to open up. And yeah, I'm getting like wow reactions everywhere I go. And it's just mind boggling to me. How is it that Kurt Roscoff gets to be the guy in human history that disrupts the whole anthropology of the whole thing? And it's like, if that's what I got to do, Faye, that's what I'm going to do. I'm here, I'm breathing this oxygen, and I'm going to raise the vibration around the world through the airwaves of this radio station. We're going to get her did. Our friend Emily has that saying, we're going to get her did. That's how we say it over here.
Good on you, Emily. It's really interesting because, you grow up, and if you're not surrounded or someone who has a disability, then you never get the opportunity to learn or understand where they come from or how they're feeling or anything like that. It's a pretty tough gig for a lot of people. And we humans, I'll call us humans, who, live in this world or environment that is good and we can do anything we like and, move around and get all that sort of stuff, is interesting because we never look at the other side, do we? If we don't have to, we don't. Because I think what we do is we complicate our lives anyway when they need not be complicated. Keep it simple, sweet, and look at life and allow people to have the opportunity. It's what I like to see is I love to see people successful. That is my journey. That is my purpose, to help people become successful if they're not. Be on a part of their journey and watch them grow and learn. And my radio show is to have conversations with people, to give them a voice. So my platform is their platform, to give them a voice, to talk about life and their experiences, because I always say there's someone out there listening that says, that's me. That's me. I'm not alone. There is someone out there like me, and that's what this platform's all about. It is my show, but the platform is for those people to come on and share. What you're sharing now is fantastic. I will walk away from this conversation and really embrace and be more observant with what's really going on around me and further out now. So thank you.
Yeah, it's a small world after all, like Walt Disney taught us, right?
It's a small world. It's funny who you can bump into. It doesn't matter where you are in the world. You can be right across the other side of the world and you can bump into someone that lives 2 streets away from you or something that you never knew was over there as well. It is a small world. But, let's all join together instead of create peace, not war, and make the place a happy place and make our journeys exciting and fun for all, not just for some. It has to happen at some stage, doesn't it? Maybe not in my lifetime, but down the track. I mean, the next generation and the next generation, they look at the world in a different way to my generation and the generation after me. My grandchildren look at the world in a different way to what I look at it. So we can all learn and grow together and be proactive, not reactive.
Exactly. So what I try to do is I try to take this conversation of what's possible and I look for what's in perpetuity, what becomes permanent, because like say I tell a story of 6 years, where does it go from there? And I talk about the number 33 times growth. So I was with this organization, we sextupled the access So that's a little hint and foreshadowing that with what I did there, we're not done yet. We're going to quintuple that, because we're going to take that sextuple and we're going to go 5 times more. We're going to scale it out 5 times more. And then when we get it from where I found it to that 33 times more point, that's where I'm going to be like, okay, Wisconsin, now you've got it. Now you done did it. So we're just getting started here with that story. And the idea is in 2014 here in the USA, the Americans with Disabilities Act Network, they had a group that put together a blog, an online blog in 2014. And it was started a year ahead of the Americans with Disabilities Act. It was the 25th anniversary celebration coming up. And what these Americans with Disabilities Act advocates put together, and these leaders, is they had Americans with disabilities, that were, receiving services through what the Americans with Disabilities Act made possible. They would reflect upon it. They blog on it, like how important, crucial it was that America passed the law that was signed into law in 1990 here in the USA. And that had an impact on me, Faye, because when I looked that thing over and the way they went about it to make a point that the lives of a person with a disability is not occasion, it's not a once in a while, it's not a few and far between circumstance. It's an all the time thing. It's a constancy. It's, sun up to sundown when we're sleeping thing. And that had an effect on me because, like, I can go out and do a half a dozen, clinics in a year with people with disabilities. We can get people in ski shows and do that 20 times a year, but then what is Kurt Roskoff doing with the rest of his time? Really is where that thought got me. And that's what emerged the everything is for everybody mindset that I have, was this celebration of a law that we have here in America, in the United States of America, and, so when you let people with disabilities do things by now, the global wheelhouse is self-determination. So I would have fun with some of these advocates. I'd say, all right, come on now. I'd be like, what are you determining? Because it's not Kurt Roskoff determination. It's your determination because it's self-determination. And, and it really is a thing. Like, what are we doing in our society, in our governments, in our face spaces, in our service clubs like Lions International, Kiwanis International, Optimus International? Let people name their favorite international group, and what is the role of people with disabilities by their determination? Not leaders that don't have a disability saying, we got that one figured out, we're good to go, type of thing. Unless it's driven by advocates with disabilities, we're not done yet.
Yeah.
I don't let anybody think that their operation, their business, their political party initiative, their agency council, their summit, whatever they're doing, I don't think it's done until they show me that all people with disabilities are at the table and able to put their spin on it, and that the opportunity for that to come forward happens. That's my litmus test. That's my assessment.
And I think you're pretty right there. How many have the opportunity to sit around the table and say, this is me, this is what I can do, this is what I can't do. Stop thinking about yourself and think about others who have a disability. What is it that they need? What is it that they want? What is it that they want to make their life easier, which will make your life easier? And a lot of the tools, we use tools every day for different things, for building and all the rest of it. What are the tools that we need to be active in the world of creating, educating these groups, educating people to understand that they need all people at the table, not just some, all, so that everyone can have a voice. Everyone can Yeah, everyone can have a voice and say, why don't you look at it this way? This is what I think. What do you think about that? And so that they get that opportunity to open up the conversation to a greater, I suppose, take off the blinkers and open up the conversation so it comes, creates an awareness that is not there most of the time.
Yeah, exactly. And I've got to say that the biggest perpetrator of apathy and negligence is the global business community. I have to say that if you look at the opportunity for inclusive hiring, assistive technology, things in workplaces to bring people with disabilities into, these business conferences, like I was talking about the golf industry,
Mhm.
sure, my father and family and I, we all did some stuff. We had events where, people who are blind or visually impaired came out. We did our token things. That's the thing. But what did we do, or what does the golf industry do to have golf professionals with disabilities, to have golf course superintendents with disabilities, and golf course owners? When you look at the country clubs and all this lavish living that we do, where do people with disabilities come in to do that? And like all of our virtual networking, we are seeing a lot of participation, but I say when we aggregate and enumerate like how, like what portion of people are participating in these business activities, again it needs to be 33 times more. And until leaders start to see that and organizers start to see that, so let's take a look at the deaf and hard of hearing community. Let's take a look
Can we
at,
just
let's take a,
can we just hold it for a sec?
yeah.
Remember that. Remember that. Don't forget it. We'll continue that conversation because, you're just opening up a whole can of worms here for people. I love it.
That's what you got to do. Everybody's been afraid to put it out there right the way it is, and I just kind of had this culmination where it's like, this is what's got to be done. We need a renegade, maverick, disruptor type modality to like really put people, in a new place. It's like you've enjoyed a 3D movie, right?
Yeah.
Like you put on those glasses and you enjoy the 3D movie. Well, that's what I think this is like. I think if we really put that new lens, that's what I feel happened to me. I feel like 10 years ago, I had a new lens put on my, over my face, and I could look at life in a whole new way. That's what I think
Yeah.
it's all about. It just opens everything up.
I mean, all the conversations that I have on radio or with business owners or whomever, I learn so much more. I learn about them, but I actually learn about me and who I am. And there's nothing's really impossible. It's I'm possible.
That's right.
I'm possible. And it's just the way we look at things and the fear that's built into people looking at people with disabilities and ignoring it because they don't know how to act around them. Okay, we're coming back. Now remember where we left off. And we're back, and I have Kurt on the line, and we're talking about disabilities and inclusion in every activity that we do in the world. Sport, work, communication, it doesn't matter what it is. It's called inclusion. And I've always said is the people with a disability don't really have the disability. It's the people that don't have the disability have the disability because they don't understand how to behave or to, communicate with people with disabilities. Would I be right there, Kurt? Or would I be wrong?
Yeah. No, you'd be absolutely correct. Because again, some of the insights that I share with you today are pretty much the whole onslaught of it all, and the whole basis of it all is based on conversations that I've had, interactions I've had, with people with disabilities, and like we talked about the water skiing.
Mm,
I'll say the most magnificent, like sweet life experience that I've had is when we had the opportunity with a regional here in the USA. There's a regional circuit under the Helen Keller Foundation
mm,
with the deaf blind community. So let's really start to, picture in our mind's eye, like you have students who are part of primary school education, K-12 system, kindergarten through 12th grade, senior in high school, like right before going to university and whatever. So all these younger youth coming out to water ski, and they're deaf blind. So they're using, tactile interpreters, hand interpretation. They're holding hands, and what they do with their fingers and where they touch each other on the palm, it's almost like palm reading, but not, looking at it with your eyes, you're feeling it. And they communicate. I don't claim to know how it all works, but that's what I was looking at, is that's what they're doing. And then, we talked about the faith and the trust. Imagine you don't have sight, you don't have hearing, and you're going out there and you just have your few other senses. And, this is the thing that, they trust us to take them out on those skis, and they're figuring out, and they did a wonderful job, because, their eyes and their ears don't drive their body mechanics, so it's just another way to get the message to the brain, kind of what they needed to do. And they did a wonderful job. And just the way the whole activity came together with the staff and our skiers and our volunteers and the observers and the onlookers, and the way that all came together, it was just, I mean, for me it was like magical. But it's because I was ignorant, before doing that event, like, how is this supposed to go down? But I put it in the hands of the participants, because that's kind of where it went for me. Like, when I do these things, I guess I'll share another example. Another group that taught me is my team triumph. So my team triumph comes from the endurance sports. So that's where we're talking about, you know, Ironman, you know, marathon, triathlon, so on and so forth. All of these endurance sports, and they have running chairs. So they have the able-bodied runner having an ergonomically correct, running chair, and it's how they team together to be a part of a race type of thing. And when they do that, call the diverse ability athlete the captain, and then the able-bodied runner is the angel, basically being the wings that makes the thing fly, I guess you could say. And then there's a team. There's also others that are part of the team to make this all work. And the disability is the one that drives that whole unit for how they're going to perform in that race. And when they go to a race organizer, the way it was told to me is they get to a point of, how is it going to end up? What is the arrangement? And they'll get these race organizers that say, we'd love to have you. Like, great, everything's great, 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 great. And then what do they do in the end of it all? They say, oh yeah, just come right in back here. We'll just have you start right in the back, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, this is a program that will not take a back seat. It's like, if
mm,
you want my team triumph to be a part of your race, my team triumph is in the front. They're the ones that start the race. And that's how it all works. Putting the diverse ability athletes in front, where they deserve to be,
yeah, not
so they
behind.
respect you,
Yeah.
type of thing. And so, but they run into this thing of the old way of thinking, like, oh yeah, we'll have all of our able-bodied athletes doing what they're always used to doing, and we'll just have people at the end. And it's that second rate mentality that we're trying to get over and above. that we need to eliminate that. We need to dissolve that, where people around the world with disabilities are no longer in this world today second rate. Everyone with a disability is first rate, and to get that equity and that equality and that opportunity and the things that the world offers, because we have a human resource issue. Because if people with disabilities are 1 in 4 people in the world, the 2 billion people, and we are marginalizing them, we're suppressing them, we're not drawing all of their talents out of them that they do have, the world is lesser for it. We want to maximize, not minimize. But that's what we've been doing since the history, throughout history. We've been minimizing what people with disabilities do as an entirety. I mean, again, a lot of triumphs, a lot of people that don't need this advocacy that are people with disabilities. But with what all these people are doing, multiply that by 33, and then we're in a pretty good place.
But it's all about ignorance, isn't it? Ignorance is bliss to a lot of people. And I think that education needs to start in the schools with the kids who don't have a disability to understand and have the inclusion of those who can participate in classrooms so that they can understand, what happens, what they can do, what the possibilities for someone with a disability is and can be. So the education, don't even get me started on the education system, but the education system lacks in a lot of ways, as far as I'm concerned. My opinion again, anyone jumps on my bandwagon, then it's my opinion. But I can see a lot of opportunities for lots of things to change in the system so that when the kids come out of grade school, let's call it year 12, and they either choose to take on a profession or they go to university or whatever they do, that's their choice. But they have an understanding of disability. They have an understanding of all the opportunities that we all have, not just a few. And that opportunity can be created. You look at Hawkins, look what he did. Education plus Stephen Hawkins. And he was just absolutely amazing. I mean, he couldn't talk, but what did he do? He sat in front of classes and educated people, wrote books and did amazing things. So anything is possible. Nothing is impossible unless you want it to be or choose it to be.
Yeah, and I think stories like that have their entertainment value, their inspiration value, elation, celebration. There's a lot that comes out of these stories. But I think at the end of the day, what I think all of these individuals' hopes comes from it is to affect the everyday person for every day and to affect the powers that be, the leaders of all these countries, to influence all of them to come at leadership and life and use of resources and money and how everything's distributed, to look at where is the equity for people with disabilities. People with disabilities are the largest minority group. So when you start to talk about social justice, and disability rights are civil rights, and then getting that all put together so that the changes that people have risked their lives for and stuff like that, when you look at the legacy of Martin Luther King Jr. and I have a dream, I guess that's kind of what I feel is that guy Martin Luther King Jr., he gave me that impetus to say, you know what, Martin Luther King Jr. and the world, I too have a dream. I have a dream that no matter what your ability is, you have life to, kick life in the tail, live life, having life, having the tiger by the tail, I guess is another analogy out there. One of the stories in the water ski timeline for me is that the guy who got it all started for me, he got with a professional ski team here in Wisconsin, the Tommy Bartlett Thrill Show, the Sky Skate Stage Ski Show, worked with the ski show director to convince the ski show director to come to the lake that we ski on, an hour and a half away from where this professional ski site is in Wisconsin Dells, to come closer to Milwaukee by where we are, and bringing a flyboard. Now, flyboarding was started in France. And, so what they devised is using a jet ski. So the propelling water out of that jet ski goes through a fire hose, a 15-foot hose, and, lifts the flyboard user up into the air, hence calling it a flyboard. And so what this gentleman does, spastic cerebral palsy, power wheelchair user, quadriplegia, trusts this whole thing to be tethered to that ski show director, giving that ski show director a hug from behind. So getting, riding on the back, arms coming in front, giving the guy a hug to stay snug on him, and then going 15 feet in the air and, trusting the whole thing, and this being caught by Milwaukee television. And, it's available, to show in video, but what an amazing thing that this guy just had so much hunger in life and just so much confidence that he orchestrated the whole thing, made it happen, and allowed the TV station to bring it to their viewing audience. And then now it's saved in perpetuity, on this website, to show that when you set your mind to something, that you can do it. And I alluded to like Walt Disney, who brought us Imagineering. And that's what I really want your listeners to really think about is, what have your dreams brought you? What have you thought to do? What have you maybe put to rest and maybe thought, it'd be pretty tough to do that? I showed up at the world's largest water ski tournament with this guy promising that we're going to give a demonstration. We brought the sit ski and a rope and him as the skier. I had a misunderstanding because the organizer said that they were going to take care of talking to the show director. So I picture when you talk to a show director, you're organizing boats and skiers and everything you need to ski. But no, he was just talking to that ski show director for permission that I could come out with my boat and the whole thing. But I didn't have it, Faye. And he asked me if that was a problem. And I told him no. And I basically, at that moment, was lying to him. But there was something about this confidence and this tenacity and this thing of, the show must go on. Like you were having technical difficulty before the show, but here we are, we made it happen. It's that type of thing. Well, what I did is I went in this tournament and I told all these competitors, I started introducing myself to people, and I'm like, we got an opportunity here. Would your team like to help? And I made my way down like a politician. I'm Kurt Roscoff. Do you want to help? Do you want to help my campaign? The inclusion of the water skiing campaign. And what happened is we created a potluck situation that one group provided the boat, one group provided skis, the other group provided skiers. Everybody asked me if this was good, like they could do this, but it wasn't the whole thing. But we put all the pieces together and it happened. And this skier went from the left to the right. And I was able to say, ladies and gentlemen, this is adaptive water skiing. It happened. It started with, oh no, we had a misunderstanding. I'm not prepared. I don't have what I need. I could have said, oh, I'm sorry, it's not going to work. Could have sent the guy home. I messed it up. I'm sorry. But no, I gave everybody a chance to help. I had the humility.
To experience something they hadn't experienced before. You gave them the opportunity to experience that inclusion in something they'd never experienced before. So how brilliant is that to start with?
Yeah, because I was in front of them saying, You know, ladies and gentlemen, competitors here, you know, you're going over that jump doing flips and helicopters, and you're, you know, doing circles around the boat. You're skiing on your bare feet. You know, you're doing this, you're doing that. But what are you going to do with this? As I hold up the sit ski. And then you can just see them. Their fingers were going right to their lips, and they're doing lip diddles. They didn't know what to do with that thing. So that became the thing. We taught them what to do with a sit ski. And now it's a thing. We have thousands of people who understand that if somebody with a disability wants to ski, that the Wisconsin Water Ski Federation will make it happen. Yeah, yes, they can. Yes, we can.
Absolutely. Now, we're coming to the end of the show. What would be 2 tips that you would give the listeners about the conversation that we've had today? What do they need to be aware of? What is something
to be aware of? I guess first of all, it's people with disabilities appreciate, you know, when we try, and if there's any question marks, to just, you know, be ready to take your questions to the person with a disability, and they'll take you through it, because they're appreciating that you're giving them the opportunity. That's the biggest thing. That's what made this whole conversation available, is I let them answer my questions. And now I can share it like I knew it all my life. And I'm kind of like, no, I just learned this in the last decade. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, good. Thanks, Kurt. It's been absolutely fabulous. We could go for another couple of hours, really, with the conversation, but that's not possible. So thank you so much to Kurt Rothkopf from Wisconsin in the United States for sharing his passion and purpose in life is to create inclusion of people with disabilities, and don't look at them with disabilities, look at them as people such as yourself. I'm Faye Waterman, the conversation curator. I'll be back next week, same time, same place. Keep safe and think about who you can include in your life that isn't quite up to your standards, or has a disability that wants to be included in some social gatherings or community. Thank you. And it is now time for the news. And then after that, it's Monday Mash with Sam. It's bye from me for now. Thanks, Kurt. Okay, I'm turning the phone off, and I'll just talk to you on here.